Are you settling in? Told somebody y'all were moving down, and they said, really? I said, yeah, I really think we are. We're glad to have you at any time, no matter when.
I can't Thank you for this opportunity to gather together and worship in your name. We ask that you be with one of the priests of the word tonight, and that she also be with us so that we might hear and learn from your word. Lord, be with those that are on the prayer list. And Lord, be with us tonight. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
For years I traveled this wide world over, and I've seen beauty so rich and rare. But where I'm going is so much better. Down here there's nothing that can compare. Oh, there is nothing that can compare with all the beauty and glory there. My Lord is building a mansion there, and there is nothing that can compare. Just a beggar, I have no mansion, no gold nor silver, jewels rare. But in the morning, when I reach heaven, I know I'll be a millionaire. Oh, there is nothing that can compare with all the beauty and the glory there. My Lord is building a mansion there, and there is nothing that can compare. I could choose now between the whole world and the smallest mansion in heaven fair. I choose to go there. It's so much better, and all Earth's glory cannot compare. Oh, there is nothing that can compare with all the beauty and the glory there. My Lord is building a mansion there, and there is nothing that can compare. Truly tonight, there is nothing that can compare to what God has given us in our hearts, but also in our home in heaven. He's prepared a place for us. And above everything else, I just want to go. This is a canned sermon, actually. I don't know how many weeks ago, 2 or 3. I don't. Before Thanksgiving, I've been reading. This is going to be 1 Kings, the 13th chapter, and of course, I was just reading my Sunday school lesson. But I was thinking about, you get frustrated sometimes because you want things to happen and you realize you have no control over hardly anything in this world. You cannot change corruption. You can't change people. You can't change sinners. You can't, one of the scriptures that came to me after reading this chapter was God, and I don't know if I can quote it just right, but God has chosen the foolishness of preaching to save men. When you preach, you may preach with the power and you may preach the word of truth, but it is God that brings the increase, no matter who we are. So even in that, we can't do anything of ourselves. It has to be God that plants the seed, that opens the eyes, that opens the hearts and the minds. So what can we do? Well, God said, as I was reading this, He said, don't quit. Don't quit. And here's why. This chapter is about Jeroboam. It's about a man of God, which I assume is a younger man of God, and an old prophet. And when we get to Sunday school, we'll talk about it from the perspective of the king of Jeroboam. But tonight I want to talk about it from the perspective of the young man of God. And it says, and behold, there came a man of God. It doesn't say he's young, but later on as we talk, as he communes with the two of them, you get the feeling that he has reverence for the older prophet. And behold, there came a man of God out of Judah by the word of the Lord. In other words, the Lord sent him. And he went into Bethel. Now, Judah was the southern kingdom. That's just where this man of God was from. I assume it's like from Jerusalem. And he was going to Bethel. And that's about a 10-mile journey. It's right over the border into Israel. It's kind of the first little big town that you get to, Bethel. Bethel is where Jeroboam had set up the idol, the golden calf. And he had commanded everybody that they could not go down to Jerusalem. They had to stop right there at Bethel and worship there, because behold, these are the gods that have brought you up out of Egypt and done all these things for you, and you don't go down to Jerusalem to worship anymore. So he had changed everything about their worship. Instead of going to Jerusalem like they were commanded of God, they had to not go, and they could worship in Bethel. And instead of worshiping at the temple that we've just talked about and how marvelous it was, they had to worship at the feet of a calf, a golden calf of all things. And then, on top of that, Jeroboam was offering sacrifices on an altar. Well, he ain't a priest. He was just messing everything up from what God had told him to do. So God sends this man down to him to prophesy against it. And he cried against the altar and the word of the Lord, and said, O altar, altar, thus saith the Lord, behold, a child shall be born into the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priest of the high places that burn incense upon thee, and men's bones shall be burned upon thee, which would desecrate the altar, no matter whose God you're worshiping. And he gave a sign the same day, saying, This is the sign which the Lord hath spoken. Behold, the altar shall be rent, and the ashes that are upon it shall be poured out. Now, when you read it just up to that point, you think, oh, this is future tense. And Josiah was way on, several hundred years on down the road. I don't know exactly, but it was a long, long time before Josiah was actually going to be born. But it came to pass when Jeroboam heard it, and I'm going to sort of tell it a little bit so we can get down, because it's a long chapter. I don't want to take up all the time. But when Jeroboam was there offering incense that he wasn't supposed to be offering to this altar, this calf thing, and he hears the man of God prophesying against this altar, and it makes him angry, and he sticks his hand out like, go get him and cut his head off. I'm tired of hearing him. And when he stuck his hand out, his hand froze, and he couldn't pull it in, and he couldn't move. It was like it was paralyzed. And he wanted to say, lay hold on him. And his hand, which he put forth against him, dried up so that he could not pull it in again to him. The altar also was rent, and the ashes poured out from the altar. Now that's enough to change your heart and mind, because this man of God just prophesied this, and this just happened, according to the sign which the man of God had given by the word of the Lord. And the king answered and said unto the man of God, Entreat now the face of the Lord thy God, and pray for me, that my hand may be restored to me again. And the man of God besought the Lord, and the king's hand was restored. So here's all these miracles happening, just bang, 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 one after the other, enough to completely turn Jeroboam around. And the king said unto the man of God, Come home with me and refresh thyself, and I will give thee a reward. Now, that was a temptation. But the man of God said unto the king, If thou wilt give me half thine house, I will not go in with thee, neither will I eat bread nor drink water in this place. For so was it charged me by the word of the Lord, saying, Eat no bread, nor drink water, nor turn again by the same way that thou camest. In other words, if you come into the city one way, then you go out a different way. So he went another way and returned, not by the way that he came to Bethel. So far he's doing good. He knew what God had told him. Go down, prophesy, and don't eat, don't drink, and return a different way. So he's almost home. He's prophesied, he got in one way, he's got out another way, he's not eat and he's not drank. Now there was this old prophet in Bethel, and his sons had seen what was going on, and they went home and they told their father what all they had seen, and how this man of God from Bethel had come up, and he had done all these miracles, and he prophesied against this altar, and it rent, and all the ashes poured out, and the king's hand got stuck, and it was paralyzed, and he healed it and brought it back in. And the prophet got excited, and he said, "Saddle me the animal and let me go after him." And he went after him. He went after the man of God, this is the 14th verse, and found him sitting under an oak. And that's when God said, "Don't stop. Don't stop." And he said unto him, "Art thou the man of God that camest from Judah?" And he said, "I am." But we're going to stop right there because we're going to talk about this. If this man of God had done what God had told him and not stopped, the old man would not have caught up with him. Now, we all know this story, and we know the end of this story, and this ain't going to be good. But that's what he's telling us. You may have done this and this and this and this and this, but you can't stop because you will get caught up. The enemies of your soul will catch up to you if you stop. So the lesson tonight is to press on. The lesson is to make it all the way home. Don't stop till you breathe your last, because otherwise there's a chance that our enemies will catch up with us. So he found him sitting under an oak, and I'm sure he was tired. He had walked 10 or so miles, and if you've ever had an unction of God, when you've done it, when you've completed it, it's like all your energy just drains out of you. You just want to go plop down somewhere. It's done. He managed to get through it. And so he probably was thirsty. He had not had anything to drink on those. He's not had anything to eat. And he was headed back home, and he was tired, and he sat down to rest. And this old prophet caught up with him and found him. And he said unto him, "Come home with me and eat bread." And he said, "I may not return with thee, nor go in with thee. Neither will I eat bread nor drink water with thee in this place." So he hadn't left Bethel yet. He's still in Bethel. "For it was said to me by the word of the Lord, Thou shalt eat no bread, nor drink water there, nor turn again to go by the way that thou camest." So he's telling the old prophet what God has told him. Now, if this old prophet had any care for this poor young man of God's soul, he would not have done what he's fixing to do. But listen to what he did. He said unto him, "I am a prophet also, as thou art. And an angel spake unto me by the word of the Lord, saying, Bring him back with thee into thine house, that he may eat bread and drink water. But he lied unto him." When we stop, we can believe a lie. Because when we stop, we lose the discernment of God's Spirit. He says, "Follow me." He doesn't ever say, "Come stop." He says, "Follow me." When we decide the way is too hard, or I'm too tired, and we've all been tired. I know what it is to be just bone tired and to have to just keep going and keep going. John and I took a trip to the Grand Canyon, and there was 100 different signs in 100 different languages that said, "Don't walk to the bottom and come back in one day," and we walked to the bottom and came back one day. Not smart, but we really enjoyed the trip. But the last few miles of that trip, every switchback, I had to stop. We're climbing altitude, and hey, I'm from sea level. I ain't from that area. And so I was out of breath at every step of the way. And I literally could not hardly speak by the time we finally got to the top. I know what it means to be bone tired, but we couldn't stop. It was getting dark. You couldn't, if we had stayed any longer, we would have, the park closes at a certain time. Now, we weren't close to dark getting out by any stretch, but if we had tarried, darkness would have caught us, the park would have closed, and we wouldn't have gotten out of there in time. So there is a danger in stopping, and how easy it is to give in to the flesh. Let's put it that way. The flesh will tell you, you can't do this. The flesh will tell you it's too hard. The flesh will tell you all of these things. And when we listen to it, that's when we get into trouble every single time. And he lied unto him. And the verse that I thought about here, and I didn't look it up, but in Corinthians it says, though an angel from heaven come down and preach a different gospel than what you have already received, let him be accursed. And he says it like 2 or 3 times. I say it, so I said before, so I say again. What kind of angel was he? Obviously wasn't an angel of God. This prophet was so intent on having his way and so intent on getting some of the glory. He wanted to be able to say, oh, well, that prophet came home and it ate with me. He wouldn't go eat with the king, but he'd come eat with me. And our agendas are not important. I don't care what they are. My agenda is not important. Following God's lead is very important. So he lied to him, and so he went back with him and did eat bread in his house and drank water. And it came to pass as they sat at the table that the word of the Lord came unto the prophet that brought him back, the old prophet. And that old prophet began to cry unto this young man of God that came from Judah, saying, thus saith the Lord, for as much as thou hast disobeyed the mouth of the Lord and hast not kept the commandment which the Lord thy God commanded thee, but camest back and hast eaten bread and drunk water in this place, of the which the Lord did say to thee, eat no bread and drink no water, thy carcass shall not come unto the sepulchre of thy fathers. Ooh, judgment has passed. So what does a man do? Well, I don't think he's hungry or thirsty anymore. So he gets up, and the old prophet gives him his animal to ride on. And so the young man gets on that animal and heads back out of town to go home. I wonder if he thinks he's going to make it. And I guess if he thought, well, if you lied to me the first time, and was this a lie also? So see how hard it is to discern. And it came to pass, after he had eaten bread, and after he had drunk, that he saddled for him his ass, to wit, for the prophet whom he had brought back. So the old prophet saddled it for the young man of God. And when he was gone, a lion met him by the way, and slew him. And his carcass was cast in the way, and the ass stood by it, and the lion also stood by the carcass. And behold, men passed by and saw the carcass cast in the way, the young man's body, and the lion standing by it. And they came and told it in the city where the old prophet dwelt. And so the prophet that brought him back, when he heard when he heard thereof, he said, it is the man of God who was disobedient unto the word of the Lord. Therefore the Lord hath delivered him unto the lion, that hath torn him and slain him according to the word of the Lord, which he spake unto him. And he spake to his son, saying, saddle me the ass. And he did. And he went out there and he found it just as they had told him. And he brought the carcass back home. He buried it in his own burying place. And they mourned over him. And he told his sons that when I get ready to die, bury me with this prophet. And so what I began to think about, to me, this is one of the saddest chapters in the Old Testament. Every time I read it, my heart just goes out to the young man. How he managed to resist the temptation of the king, because he may have thought, this is going to happen. If I go in there and I prophesy and I get out, the king may ask me to stay, or he may try to keep me there, and I'll resist him. He did not expect the temptation to come from one of his own. But how many of us have ever been hurt by one of our own? How many of us have ever had problems with one? It happens. It's just the way life is. And so we have to understand that the relationship that we have with God is ours. We need to develop it. We need to work on it. We need to make it secure. We need to be so in tune with God that when He says go here or go there, we do it. And we can take advice, but it's got to be, if God tells you to do something and I tell you to do something else, please disobey me. Follow the Lord. Follow the Lord's leadings. I don't care who it is. The Bible says if an angel of God comes down and appears to you and tells you something different than what this word tells you, this word is the truth, always the truth. So don't be deceived and be on your guard every time, because God can use anybody, but so can Satan. So can Satan, and he has. And so when I read about this, I just want to take note of it. But the main lesson that he was trying to teach me, I think, was don't be discouraged, and don't think that we've ever done all there is that needs to be done. None of us, what does it say? None of us have striven against sin unto death or something like that. It's in there. But none of us have put forth every single effort. I haven't, nobody has. So none of us are going to measure up to Jesus Christ, ever. He paid the ultimate price. He did it because he had no sin in his heart or in his life. And you and I, no matter what we've done, we need to cleave unto him. We need to press forward, go on. God has fed me with that chapter in 35th chapter of Jeremiah and another chapter in Corinthians. And if I get a chance, I'll get up and tell you what he's told me about that. But I just enjoyed the fact that when I ask God to give me something, he's so faithful and so precious, and he just opens up the scriptures and says, do this and do that, and I want to follow him all the days of my life. It has been the best life ever. I could not imagine how bad my life would have been if I had turned against God, and I was just 17. And it's been some ups and it's been some downs, and we've had some twists and turns and all sorts of things, but God, through it all, has never, ever failed me. Ever. I failed him on a number of occasions, but he has never failed. When I messed up, he chastised, he lifted up, he pushed forward. And the message is always, go forward. Just go forward. There's nothing behind us, nothing to turn back to. Everything ahead of us is good. And if we just keep marching forward and we don't give in to the fleshly desires of our bodies, and I don't mean working 44 hours or something like that. I just mean it's easy to sit down and not do. It's easy to quit. It's easy to say, well, let someone else do it. Realize this is life and death. This is the treasure that God has given to you, and we need to treasure it. We need to honor it. We need to work with it, let it work in our hearts and our lives, and y'all pray for me. I've enjoyed it.
When we walk with the Lord in the light of his word, what a glory he sheds on our way. What we do, his good will, he abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey.
Well, I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'm here to open up service. I'm going to go ahead and say that before I forget. I enjoyed what you read. I am not as familiar with that story, so I need to go back and read it some more. I do want to press on, and I don't want to give up. And I know that that's the easy thing to do, and I want to do the hard thing. I want to follow through with my commitment that I've made to the Lord and press on. And I always pray for discernment. I pray for wisdom. And there's been times where, you feel like, or I felt like at times, how do I know for sure this is what God wants me to do? And I do find that when I'm staying in tune with God and reading like I should, and that it's much easier to discern that. This was years ago, but when Lance worked, we both actually worked at Northrop years ago, and the plant was going to move to Florida, and we were very new. We weren't, Christians going to church, and we were reading a lot, and we were trying to decide, do we move, do we stay? And it was really hard to know, and, we're trying to get advice, but, I was 100% sure that we were not supposed to move. Now, it didn't happen immediately, because first we were on the list to move, and then I called Lance. I was like, no, I know it. We're not supposed to go. I feel like it was confirmed in God's Word, what I was reading. We are supposed to stay. And we had to jump hoops, and it was just a mess, and we thought, everybody told us we were crazy. You're giving up this great job, and where are you going to work? God worked it all out, and it was what we were supposed to do. And a lot of times I'm concerned about my praying. I don't want to always just pray for the easy thing to happen. You pray, you want things to go this way, and I'm starting to try and pray, because I don't know if the easiest way is what God wants, and He knows better than I do. He can see and knows so much more, and I'm trying to pray, Lord, just give me the strength and the peace to accept whatever your will is. And that's, not that I hate to say, well, I know God can do anything. Pray for healing, or pray that He would fix this. I know He can do that. And I know I've heard, pray that it's already been done. But healing doesn't happen for everybody and I don't want to ever doubt God, but I want to, whatever He wants is what I want to want. So I've had a really good day. It's been, I thought, a beautiful day. We got to see some sun, and we went to the dentist today, which normally is not a good day because I don't like going to the dentist, but when you have to sit in a chair and you can't move, and you have to just endure. I can't get up and go do something because I'm a doer. I just spent the whole hour in prayer while they were working on my mouth. So that was a good thing. So I felt really at peace, and so that was sweet. I have been reading, talking about different places in the Bible. I was thinking about, I'm reading in Mark. Now, I'm reading in Mark because I'm in a Facebook group. No, not a Facebook group. I'm in a group on Gab, which is like a social media kind of group. But I'm in it. It was started by a Christian guy and everything, so that's pretty cool. But there was somehow somebody posted that there was a monthly Bible study, and they're going through the book of Mark, a chapter at a time. And I'm really not very good at doing these group things. I've had different friends that we've tried to do the Bible together, and somehow it just hasn't worked. But maybe because I'm just sitting here reading, I've been tuning in. So I read a chapter, and then everybody posts everything they got out of that chapter, what the Lord told them or what they learned, and it's been really good. And Mark is one of those books in my Bible that I have marked up a lot. I like action, and it's a book of action. But I've also enjoyed going back and reading over things that I noted the first time and re-remembering things. But talking about books of the Bible, if I had to pick my favorite Old Testament books, I love Ezra and Nehemiah. I know we're going to do those. But prophets, I love Isaiah and Jeremiah. Psalms is always going to be my favorite book because I love that God put songs in our book. And I love poetry. So Gospels, I love the book of John. Everybody does. And then he gives us letters. So that's so nice. And he gives us history. And we've got miracles. And, God is so good. He gives us a complete picture and a wonderful book to study. So I don't really have a lot this is going to be kind of disjointed. I just took notes on things that I had been, that God had shown me or impressed upon my mind while I was reading in Mark. So these are kind of jagged little notes here. One thing that I've noticed he says, or it has been imprinted on my mind, is he says, "Be not afraid, only believe." And Jesus said that with Jairus' daughter. And that's just 5 words. Be not afraid, but only believe. And that is so powerful. And he said it in the midst of people mocking, and when there was a lot of grief and confusion, and we've all had times where we were afraid, and he's just saying, hold on and trust me. And that's good instruction for us. And then there was the story in the 4th chapter of Mark about he and the disciples got into the boat, and they were going to pass over to the other side. And he told them, we are going to pass over to the other side. But I thought, that's a guarantee. You're gonna pass over. And you may have to go through some stuff, but you're going to pass over. But he was with them in the boat, and the disciples asked him, "Do you not care?" And I was like, oh my, he does care so much. But I can see me saying, don't you care what's happening to me? And then I noticed in that chapter, Christ got in the boat with his disciples. But in the 6th chapter, I read yesterday, right after the feeding of the 5,000, it says, "And straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship, and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people." So he's not with them this time. "And when he had sent them away," he is, but "he departed into a mountain to pray. And when evening was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the 4th watch of the night he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out. And for they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them and said, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up into them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and they wondered. But I thought how interesting in the 4th chapter he was with them in the boat when they went over. This time he said, go on. But he was going to pass. He was all around them. He was, passing by them. And then I have a note here I don't think I kept in my Bible. It's from Amos. And I was just going to read that if I can find it. It said, this is in Amos 7. Thus he showed me, and behold, the Lord stood upon a wall made by a plumb line, with a plumb line in his hand. And the Lord said unto me, Amos, what seest thou? And I said, a plumb line. And then said the Lord, Behold, I will set a plumb line in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not again pass by them anymore. So I just thought, well, that's beautiful. You know, the Lord sees us, the Lord is there. And then also in that group, things I've never thought about, somebody posted today and said, Satan is not omnipresent. God is omnipresent. God is there all the time, all around us. But Satan wants us to think he is, but he is not. He can only be in one place at one time. Now, he's got his own minions, demons, spirits, but he is not God. God is omnipresent, and he is with us. And I am thankful, and I love the Lord tonight. And like I said, I'm here to open the meeting, so everyone get out and tell us what the Lord has done for you. And y'all pray for me.
It's so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take Him at His word, just to rest upon His promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for praise to trust Him more. Oh, how sweet to trust in Jesus, just to trust His cleansing blood, just in simple faith to plunge me neath the healing cleansing flood. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. And I'm so glad I learned to trust Him. Precious Jesus, Savior, friend, and I know that Thou art with me, will be with me to the end. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I prove Him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more.
I'm thankful to be here, and I think I'm converted and sanctified on this way to heaven. I enjoyed Sister Janet's message tonight, and the other sister, I enjoyed her talk tonight. Yeah. And I thought the song's been good, everything's been pretty. But one day it's going to be, I always go back to what Uncle Danny used to say, it's going to be good night down here, good morning up there. And that's a thing to look forward to, entering heaven. I talked to a young lady there where I worked today, and I gave her address. She said she might come out of our church service. I said, you will be very much welcome. And she's got a daughter. She says, I need to get back into church. And she said she's ready for her life to be over with, because she's much younger than I am. And she just kind of down on life, because certain things she tried to do just didn't work. But if God's not in it, like they said here tonight, it ain't gonna work. I don't care what you do. But I was gonna leave one verse. I never read this verse here. Psalms 53. Y'all probably know what it is by heart. But this thing struck me. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. When you don't believe there's no God, something wrong. And I worked with a guy years and years ago. He didn't believe in God. He went outside one day, a thunderstorm going on, said, Lord, if you're up there, just strike me down. That's asking for it. That's scary. And I worked with another gentleman, and he told me he was better than God. I said, whew, I can't touch that. Nobody gets beyond him, because he said our thoughts his thoughts is higher than ours. His ways are much deeper than ours. He's the one that controls us. He's the one that, if we stay in the way, he will help us along this way where we won't stumble and fall. And I don't want to do that. And I'm going to read a few more, and then I'm going to get on out of the way. There is no God corrupts or they have done abomination, iniquity. There is none that does it good. It said God looks down from the heavens upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand, that did seek God. So right there backs it up. And as long as you seek God, he'll be there, like Sister Janet and Sister Laura said tonight. We better let him be in it. Because when we try to take control, I'm going to mess up real bad. And he guides me every day. He protects me. I hear him talking to me through the day. I pray all the time during the day. And I think about our songs we sing here. I think about different ones when they get out and talk. I really enjoyed it. Everyone's talk here, the ones I heard. And Brother Anton and his wife, they really influenced me a lot. Eddie and Brother Eddie and Sister Barbara, they have influenced me with all he's went through, and he never gave up. He just kept on. And that's what he wants us to do. If we just give up, then our ship's going to go down. And y'all pray for me when you pray.
When you hear the thunder booming and you see the lightning flash and the castles building have all fallen with a crash, and when everything about you has all crumbled to decay, if you'll just start
Glad to be here tonight, glad to be converted and sanctified, and glad to be among my adopted brothers and sisters of the Lord. So when I heard the sisters' lessons tonight and some of the testimonies this evening, it sparked something in my head. I'm like, I know this, I've heard this before. And that's actually a wonderful, wonderful story that when we stop pressing along our way, that it allows us to be influenced by false prophets. And then it occurred to me, of course, this is actually hanging on our wall in our house, and where I sit in my recliner, I look and I see it all the time. It's one of our favorite verses, and that's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And how important is that you know, in the same vein as tonight's, you know, message, that it's not about us and about what we do in our direction, it's about his direction. And when we fall away from that, we will be open and subject to the ways of the world. And that's, you know, there is an eternal life, and I'd like to have eternal life, not eternal death. Y'all pray for me and my family.
Despised few, I'm going through with Jesus, I'm going through, and I'd rather walk with Jesus alone, and have for my pillow, like Jacob, a stone, living each moment with his face in view. Despised few, I'm going through. I'm going through. Well, I'm blessed to be here tonight, blessed to be converted and sanctified. I love that line of that song. It says, I'm going through. It says, I'll take the way with the Lord's despised few. But it doesn't feel good to be known as one of the despised few. It says we're a peculiar people. I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather be a peculiar person knowing I'm going to the kingdom than to be like everybody else. Up here, I wanted to talk about something for a moment because it happened earlier today. I've been watching a lot on our website and watching a lot of the old camp meetings, and I'm really big on our history. I love reading about the church's history. I love reading about my family's history. And I came across the very last sermon that was preached before my family left the church in 1983. I put the dates together and actually found the sermon. And the sermon was preached by Brother Ben Jernigan. And the sermon says, turn back. Turn back. And it gives me chills talking about it. But, you know, we need to always remember that where we are is where we're supposed to be when we're here. We've got the most beautiful gift that anyone could ever have. We have the gift of salvation. And when he says turn back, you know, he's a lot louder than I can. I'm not a preacher. I don't get loud. But you know, he was very, very stern about it, telling, you know, turn back from your ways. Don't let the devil get on your back. And you know, that's the thing. I want to be on fire for God. I want to be on fire for Him 24 hours a day. I want to wake up in the morning and go to bed at night knowing that I fought the whole day for Him. And I use this as my sword. You know, a lot of people don't understand when we say that we use a sword. They think that we're speaking literally of a sword in a sheath. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. We have a beautiful doctrine. We have beautiful testimonies here every week. I love each and every one of you, and I love hearing you speak because it encourages me. You know, but hearing that sermon, and I would encourage everybody in here, if you have the internet, go to our website, sanctifiedpeople.org, and go or sanctifiedchurch.org, excuse me, and go and listen to 1983 Brother Ben Jernigan's sermon. It's about an hour long. Beautiful sermon. And I mean, there's stuff on there that goes all the way back to 1951. So, I mean, it's really, really awesome to have. Is there anybody else this evening that has a testimony? I'll be glad to bring the microphone to you. If there's nobody else here that has a testimony or want to say anything this evening, do we have any announcements, Brother Glenn?
Yes, we have a funeral service. It's Saturday at 1 o'clock at the visitation, and the funeral service is at 2 p.m. right here in this building. And we are having the Christmas get-together at 6 p.m. Give us some time, you know, to get set up for that. But Sister Christina, do you need help tonight moving the? Okay, some of the strong people could go to the cafeteria, help us move some tables, and kind of help Sister Christina and Brother Anthony get set up. So.
All right.
Also, we need all the singers we can get for Saturday.
We need all the singers we can get for Saturday. All right. And of course, we have church Sunday morning at 10:30 and church Sunday evening at 6 p.m. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'd like to ask Brother Ray if you would close with prayer.
Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for the wonderful service you give us here tonight. And Lord, just go back over the weekend, Lord, also the Lord, Lord, comfort that family and comfort all those in the days ahead. We don't know what's facing us, but we got you on our side, and it makes it much easier. And Lord, we love you with all our heart, mind, soul, and body. We thank you for you take care of us in the mornings and throughout the day and at night. Lord, lay down at night. We go to bed, we don't wake up, we know where our soul will be. And Lord, we love you all our hearts and one soul body. And those ones they read over Sunday morning, ones asking for prayer, be with them. And Lord, just help us. If we can help anyone on this way, just give the encouragement we need. Take care of us throughout the rest of the evening. Bless us, go with us, guide and direct us. Keep us in your name, yes.
Amen.
y'all talk to, Gail? Yes, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, Paul, she's on.
Right. Yeah.
Then he said to me, I am a prophet also, as thou was. Angels taken to me without the good.
Yeah.
Use the words. And see, that's all work. Saying, bring him back
I know.
unto that house. At first reading, you think, well, maybe an angel did appear to him. What was it, an angel of God or angel of Satan?
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
That's
This
right.
prophet shook his head.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking, but it says, he lied.
That picture she
So it
posted on
wasn't
Facebook
angel.
is great.
And there wasn't no
It's
words
really
at all.
good. So,
Liar.
So they did it one time.
Yeah,
That's what makes it even
so
sadder.
Gail was having trouble
is,
getting nothing to touch me.
why are you messing with these
And so
children?
I
What
took
was the
myself
reason to go out there and defeat
Ever get in our
other
stuff.
than you wanted?
And they don't
Yeah,
have
you wanted to be one of
the
us.
funds anymore.
I want to be on the float and play.
Yeah.
Anyway, watch the
I
see on the float.
I took my phone
You know,
over
and
there.
so there's a lot of people that have this real desire, and especially when you have
She's staying asleep, you know, her food's in front of her. And she had stepped out of it.
come home, live their glory days, and get home, and
She
it's
lost
all
her
good.
legs.
Yeah. Can happen too easily.
It does, it hurts. And I'm just guessing, you know, I don't know that.
Oh, well, I pondered it when I read it the other day and thought, wow, I don't like this way that's turned out.
I have,
Right.
read it many, many
Yeah.
times and thought about it.
Yeah.
It is a disturbing chapter.
Well, there's quite a few in Kings and Judges, it's troubling.
First classroom, in case you already know, that closet was in that first classroom on the road, was up there.
There's stories in the
We can
Bible.
store it.
Father,
Oh, yes.
Mr. Father, Mr. Father. He was.
But they pulled away from it.
But how many times has God? God allowed
Stories where people, children have been run over, got sick and died, bees died, I don't think I think they're which you and I will never understand.
in this other thing.
Okay.
So that we could figure out how to do it up. It was there.
And Jeannie,
Okay, good.
That's the.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
being,
I'm thinking, I like it.
That's right. I love it.
The bed is so pretty.
It is.
that's so easy.
People wear them at night too. I'm like, man,
Because she knows.
Oh, yes.
yes. Oh, my goodness.
Need it,
Yeah.
need it,
I was gonna say, yeah, I went to scale.
need it. You don't leave 3 chairs up here?
At least, yeah, 'cause
More than that?
I'm gonna try and stand up, but I'm not usually.
But he was,
I believe there's a problem in there.
he was so loyal that he would not go home to the clock.
No, no, she did.
Lay down the bills, and I was just on there.
Really? And Steve was just saying, she's his cousin. That's also cousin Gail. It's COVID.
Oh, no. Oh,
Give her the brother draft.
I do. Mm-hmm.
bed in there, and the
She just had
clerks would put it at his feet.
so she's gonna do.
Can't believe he was doing the right things.
It's narcissism.
Watching the man of God be so famous.
Gail
But I
says,
think we looked up and real space and shown up.
I do remember.
There's no way saw.
Okay. Okay. She heard the
Some German out there in Georgia. And it's got, he was working on it because he was being set up for his. Well, it's like they're thinking away it's too hard. They were trying to get it, calm it all down so that when God did call him, yes, he was ready to get it.
Like, how many years ago, I think, the right thing?
There's nobody that's above them who does it wrong. It's like, nobody's gonna tell them they're always names. Everybody leaves the way out. That's the reason that we should be here.
Oh my goodness. Crazy. So should I just put it in back?
And yet he could talk all the time
Yeah.
and teach them all more.
A lot happened.
I've got about
Hey,
5.
how are you? Good. Oh, yeah, I'll stand right here. If it's in the casket.
But you can see the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
And it's the same here. It talks about Jesus Christ. And I'm like,
So is Steve, so,
I always thought, we used to.
yeah.
Foreign lands, India, Egypt, and all this, and their worship's very large, so we're not really paying no
I agree with it. It talks about Steve.
Okay.
The sacrifices.
Yes.
And it's because of the sacrifice.
Okay,
And I know that
okay,
because
all right. Yeah. Okay, is it, Mary? Polio. Yeah. Is she the one that sang with the golden bells? Yeah. I remember that. Yes, yeah. Wow, how about that? And she was a graduate? Okay. Okay, so she was Olive's sister? Okay. Okay. Counts. Right.
It's just, it's not holy.
Susan goes back. All the way back to God.
What God said from the very beginning, little by little, and
Yeah, working it out, you know.
and that's.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because Tom's having his own procedure done. So, so,
And so she learns to give us your will, and we're going God's will. You're not going to make that.
that's true. She was on the sheriff.
You have to be this track.
I've seen some scars.
And so I just don't remember where it was. I don't want to go back to
Still
I don't need $1. I don't need that. I don't have any more. No. I don't want to go.
Aw, cute. Oh, no. Might be all right. It's supposed to be 70-something degrees.
And it's wonderful. I have not always seen that crazy. So I'm just wondering.
But what you just said is about the thing.
Yeah.
I saw.
It comes on all the time. Yes.
Marvelous.
You've been in a problem, you know? Well, good tree.
When you see it,
Yeah.
first you think,
Well,
it looks like a giant.
nice.
It can't be real.
Until you start walking down it.
Well,
Yeah.